Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today. If you are here for the CDBG Grant Administration Manual training on economic development, you are in the right place. I believe Rosie will be hitting the record button soon, so just know that this presentation and quick training will be recorded. I am Jordan Conley. I'm the Community and Economic Vitality Program Supervisor, and I am joined by Rosie Goldich. Oh, Rosie already hit it. Good. I am joined by Rosie Goldich, the CDBG Coordinator, and we'll be tag teaming this presentation today. All right, so the agenda, we have some updates, some key points, and then we'll be going over the toolkit. So again, this is not a deep dive presentation into how to administer a CDBG ED grant. Instead, it's just a quick overview of the new guidelines in administration manual and where you can find the information that you need. Okay, so the main update is that we have an entirely new look. So the current version is 14 pages, and then the previous version was 22 pages. So this new version is shorter, it's a little less wordy, but most importantly, redundancies have been eliminated. And I'll get to that in a minute, specifically what we've eliminated from this particular chapter. This chapter, the current version, also includes the helpful words to know section at the top. So that includes assisted entity, CDBG ED, non-disclosure agreement, and revolving loan fund. Okay, so the main update is this. The new version does not repeat information that is found in other chapters. So that's the main reason that it's shorter. So for example, this chapter 8 on economic development does not repeat information that you can find in chapter 1, which is startup, chapter 5, which is drawdown of funds, chapter 6, which is labor standards, or the environmental review chapter. Instead, pages 2 through 5 of this chapter, chapter 8, focus on additional economic development requirements. So this chapter is really building on the rest of the guidelines and administration manual, not replacing it. So if you have an economic development grant, you should still familiarize yourself with those other relevant chapters. This just includes the additional information for economic development. So there's this focus here on additional requirements that includes financial documentation and reports from the business, the non-disclosure agreement, a hiring and training plan, a revolving loan fund plan and or program income plan, depending on your project type, labor standards, and then the grant assistance agreement and or loan agreement. So these are additional requirements for economic development. Some key points that I want to highlight here. Page 6 of the chapter 8 provides information regarding assistance agreements to be used between the local government or local development organization and the assisted entity. So as a reminder, these are required for all CDBG ED projects. The draft agreement must be reviewed and approved by Commerce. And then the economic development toolkit that Rosie will be going over shortly contains sample assistance agreements. So you don't have to build this from scratch. You can use, you can take a look at our samples first. I also want to highlight pages 7 through 8 because these detail revolving loan fund plans. If you are familiar with CDBG more broadly, but less familiar with CDBG economic development specifically, I really encourage you to pay particular attention to this section of the chapter. Revolving loan funds can be quite complex, and so it's just something to be aware of that we have here. As a reminder, RLFs carry out economic development activities that in turn generate program income through loan repayment and interest earned. So they operate a little bit differently. The program income is any income earned from CDBG ED supported activities such as repayments and or interest. And there are many eligible uses for these funds. but the local government must submit a plan to Commerce for approval. So again, these are sort of some key pages in Chapter 8 if your community has an RLF or is thinking about applying for funds to be used to start an RLF. Some other key points, pages 8 through 12 discuss LMI requirements for economic development and how to document. So of pages 8 through 12, really pay particular attention to pages 9 and 10, which discuss how all jobs must be converted into full-time equivalent positions. And then page 10 covers new hires and retained job documentations, while pages 10 through 11 covers tracking jobs for customized training grants. And then finally, this section concludes with making jobs available to LMI persons and documenting slums and blight. So these are all the LMI requirements specific to economic development, again, covered in pages 8 through 12. And then the final part of Chapter 8 covers reporting requirements for CDBG ED. So as a reminder, reports are submitted by the local government or its project administrator. And then with ED, at least 51% of the total jobs created or retained are not held by, so if at least 51% of the jobs created or retained are not held by, filled by, or made available to LMI persons, the local government may be required to repay the total grant amount back to Commerce. So just remember that with economic development, LMI requirements operate a little bit differently, and you need to be paying attention to that 51%. Finally, review of quarterly financial documents by local financial statements by local government is required. All right, so with that, we're turning over to the economic toolkit, and Rosie will be hopping in to cover this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosie Goldage, and I'm the CDBG coordinator here at Commerce. And so I'm going to walk us through a couple of pieces in the economic development toolkit. So now we will discuss the economic development associated toolkit. The first document in the toolkit is the Program Income Manual. Within this manual, there are several sample documents specific to economic development projects. The first is a subrecipient agreement. This agreement is different than the agreements in previous chapters due to the nature of economic development projects. Since projects can either be a grant or a loan, this document includes both languages of both instances. If you have any questions about this agreement and if it is required for your project, please contact your project specialist. The hiring and training plan is a sample document for how to hire and/or train jobs that will count under the 51% low to moderate income requirements for ED projects. Remember, this plan is a required part of your project. However, grantees are not required to use this specific sample document. Please work with your project specialist to ensure your hiring and training plan meets CDBG guidelines. The sample revolving loan fund plan is required for any entity, including nonprofit, development corporations, cities, towns, or counties that manage an RLF or created and/or using CDBG funds. An RLF plan is also required if your CDBG economic development project is going to generate program income. If you are unsure about program income or regulation around a revolving loan fund, please contact your project specialist. In the toolkit, there is also a training grant assistance agreement. Since CDBG economic development funds can also pay for on-the-job training, this agreement provides a framework for those training details. This also provides a plan for the relationships between the employees being trained, the business entity providing the training, and the economic development grantees' administrative and financial responsibilities. Next slide, please. Another important resource in the Economic Development Toolkit is the CDBG Supplemental Conditions to Loan Agreements. Remember, economic development projects can be structured as either a grant or a loan. If this is only required if your economic development project is structured as a loan, not for grant projects. Next slide. As previously mentioned, the sample hiring and training plan and revolving loan fund plans are also provided as individual resources in this toolkit. Remember, these are sample documents. The grantee is allowed to fill in details specific to their needs and add further requirements if they see fit. If you have an existing revolving loan fund and wish to make updates to your RLF plan, you can use this document on the right to assist you in that process. Please please work with your economic development project specialist on updating your RLF plan to ensure CDBG regulations are still being met and Commerce will approve your RLF plan. You do not need to update your RLF plan due to the new Commerce formatting and branding. Next slide. So I will quickly walk you through where to find this economic development chapter and toolkit on our website. So here we are on the Commerce homepage. You can go to commerce.mt.gov, select the Infrastructure and Planning tab, go down to Community Development Block Grant Program. And then there are two ways to access it. You can either use the CDBG Grant Administration Manual on the left-hand side, or use this box titled CDBG Grant Administration Manual. You will then be directed to the chapter and associated toolkits. And down at the bottom, you'll find the Economic Development Toolkit and all of these data points, and also the chapter. We'll now open the floor for questions. If you have any questions regarding the Economic Development chapter or toolkit, please raise your hand and a project specialist will assist you. Okay, well, if there are no additional questions, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Just a reminder that the recording of this presentation and the associated slides will be found with our Grant Administration Manual as soon as we can get them online. Thank you.